Yo, what is good everybody, and welcome back to another CREXXY'S video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my entire guide from how I went from bronze to unreal in Fortnite ranked in a month after not playing the game for 4 years. If you end up enjoying this video, be sure to like and subscribe. We are currently on the road to 500 subs, and then we'll be adding a face cam. I have 21 tips for you in order from most important to least, and now let's get into the first tip. Quick disclaimer, the quality of this video with the clips in the background may not be up to par because I lost access to all my old editing software along with all the footage that I was going to use. Okay. And now I'm going to start off by saying ranked is a mind game, and it's all about reacting to your opponent and doing your best to outplay them and put yourself in winning positions. In every fight, you should do your best to always make your opponent wrong. Now with that being said, the very first tip is you have to take smart fights. Yes, this sounds dumb. It sounds super obvious, but this is the most important thing I learned. My skill level is probably below average to the average Unreal player. Therefore, I would pretty much only take fights where I had an advantage. Examples of this would be if I get some AR shots on somebody, if I'm third partying, if I have the high ground, or any scenario where you feel like you have the upper hand. This applies for when to run too. If you were low on mats, no spare shield, just bad loot in general, you should probably repossession yourself and give yourself an advantage to win a gunfight. My second biggest tip is to switch up peaks. This alone can win and lose you fights. If you do the same peak over and over again, you're going to become extremely predictable and lose fights. Making creative peaks like this will win you fights and keep your opponent guessing at all times. The third tip is to practice a certain type of fighting and become an expert on it, and then take as many fights as you can using that style of fighting. If you think this is dumb, let me explain why you're wrong. I'll give you a scenario. Player A only practices box fighting, and he'd rate himself an 8.5 out of 10 in the skill level. Player B practices box fighting, build fighting, and piece control equally, and he will rate himself about a 6.5 in all. Now they meet in game. Player A forces him to take a box fight and then shits on him because that's what he specializes in. I'm not saying not to practice the other things, I'm saying spend a majority of your time practicing on one style of fighting and then a little bit of time practicing the other to refine your skills. Tip number 4 is play more aggressive than you think you need to. Now this may feel contradictory to the other tips I've given so far, but it's not. What I mean is play confident. I started off this series playing extremely scared, boxing up when I got shot, and then I get pieced and die. Playing confident will overall help your mechanics, and every pro player I've watched always says to play aggressive. The fifth tip is when people edit, their wall can be taken in one shotgun shot. This is a very effective box fighting strategy, especially with the Sentinel pump's faster fire rate. Use this when people try to edit on you or bait you in shooting by editing and resetting. Shoot their wall, take it, edit, and then kill them. The sixth tip is a piece control tip, and it is if there's no cone in your enemy's box, when you are breaking their wall, right as you break the wall, place a stair or a cone in their box. This is a great way to apply pressure and initiate piece control. A great move to do after getting a cone in their box is to piece where you think they will go next, whether you do a side box on either side or even a below box depending on the situation. Tip number 7 is to always keep pressure. You can't stress this enough, always keep pressure. This is a good rule to follow at all times, especially when your opponent is low. Spraying in their box, pickaxing, and trying to piece them are all good examples of what to do. Keeping pressure is a great way to get kills and allow your opponent not to get heals off. Tip number 8 is always have a cone in your box. This is a super simple one. If you don't have a cone in your box, people are going to put cones in it for you, and then you'll get pieced and die. This is a great way to ensure the most amount of pieces are yours. Tip number 9 is to bait your pickaxe to get free damage. Now what I mean by this is a lot of times in the mid to high rank, when you pull out your pickaxe to swing at an enemy's box, they will edit and try to pump you. So a lot of times you could pull out your pickaxe and then immediately switch back to your shotgun to predict the edit, and it'll be a free shot, and then you can edit out of the way and get free damage and then apply pressure on. Tip number 10 is a very underrated one, and it's simply just watching pro players and learning from them. Literally, I watch all Peterbot videos, and I'm obviously not Peterbot, but I take his concepts of retakes, piece control, box fighting, all of it, and I do my best to implement it into my game, and it helps me out so much. Every pro says to do this. Tip 11 is to know where the bus line is and then rotate accordingly if you want to play passive or play aggressive. Let's say the bus is going from Masked Meadows to Demon's Dojo, and you land at Shogun's Solitude. After you're done looting, you always have a decision of which way to go. It's important to remember if you're not healthy and do not have the best loot, you might want to rotate towards the passive side of the map, which would be over here. If you want to go for kills, you have great loot and you feel confident, follow where the bus line went. Tip number 12 is to never double swing your pickaxe. Especially once you get to the higher ranks, if you're double swinging your pickaxe, you're leaving yourself wide open to get shot. You want to swing your pickaxe once and then pull out your shotgun. Maybe go for a pre-fire or a fake pickaxe swing like we talked about before, but do your best to always make them wrong and guessing. Tip number 13 is when taking a box fight, you want to set yourself up with a right hand peek. So let's say your opponent is in this box, I will set up a diagonal box here and I'll piece the one between us. And then I can take these jump peeks or even go for a phase in their box. This is just a great way to initiate good angles in a box fight and piece control. Tip 14 is understanding how to use pre-firing. Pre-firing can be a very powerful tactic when box fighting. Let's say you're on 50 HP trying to met up and someone is full HP trying to pressure you. They break your wall, you hit a pre-fire for 100, then they have to back off and heal and let you heal, or they have to go for a 50-50 later in the fight, which are much better odds than you started with. Tip 15 sounds pretty simple, but it's always hold your shotgun out. Like so many times, people will make predictable edits on you or bad peeks, and if you just have your shotgun out, it is free damage. You will get so much more damage holding out the shotgun than if you weren't. Tip 16 is in order to heal, you almost always need to get counter damage to create an opening. I talked a little about this earlier, but let's say you get cracked from someone and they are trying to push into your box aggressively or chase you. In some cases, you will need to play more aggressively in order to get that damage up and give yourself an opening to met up. But pretty much, you need to get some sort of damage off just to force them to back off and heal, and then it'll give you an opportunity to heal, reset, and fight. Tip 17 is another healing tip. When healing, make a double box. Like when you're in a single box, you are very limited and it makes it much harder to run. With a double box like this, it gives much more space to move and can even sometimes confuse the enemy. This just really offers you more space to either run or deliver counter damage. It's just much better than a single box. Tip 18 is when you have a clear health advantage and someone is holding a wall, spray into their box. Do not go for pre-fires or pickaxes. Pretty much, this just offers a much safer way of breaching. Like if they want to shoot you, they're gonna die. You can't just brain dead spray into their box though, because you could get outplayed and die still, but this is just a good rule to follow in general when you have a clear health advantage. Tip 19 is just an underrated mechanic just to like be aware of, and that's just building fluidly. And what I mean by this is if you're like, let's say you're holding height, and if you're someone that's not building very fluidly, it makes it much easier to lose height and put yourself in a losing position in a fight. If you are building smoothly and fluidly, you'll be able to hold height and take height easier and just have overall better battles and putting yourself in better positions for peaks. Tip number 20 is for practicing, and my favorite map for practicing is 1v1 realistics. This is just a great way to practice whatever you want, whether it's just boxing up, box fighting, playing defensive, playing offensive, build fighting, piece control, you name it. It's fantastic in a 1v1 scenario. You end up fighting all sorts of players too at all different skill levels, so it's great practice for real games. And finally, tip number 21, the one everybody's been waiting for. Thank the bus driver, because if you don't, it is bad luck, and don't let anybody tell you any differently.